The end of Metallica. Top 5 modern metal bands. That is the topic of today's video. Thanks for joining me on this live stream. It is Friday, time to party. The question is, who are the biggest modern metal bands in 2023? 2022 is over. It is now 2023. And who's going to be on the rise is the question. So right now, the biggest band that rules the metal universe is really Metallica. It seems like they have dominated planet Earth for the past 666 million years. Am I right or am I right? What's up, boys? We got some people rolling in here. Dingle is here. As soon as I have a son, I will instantly name him Dingle. So, can anyone challenge Metallica? Metallica right now, Papa Het sits on the metal throne, and he presides over the domain of metal. Is there anyone that can challenge his lordship, is the question. Crypto, enjoyed my Marty Friedman clip. Thanks, brother. Grab yourself some WAP juice and a snack. I got mine right here, 69 ounces of WAP juice. And we're going to get into this topic. Metallica stopped being good in 1991. That's a hilarious statement because they've sold a lot of albums since then. 1991 is when they released the Black Album, and the Black Album sold 16 million copies. It was actually their biggest record ever. So I don't know if you're including that in your statement or not. How to make WAP juice? That is a secret recipe. You must sell your soul to I, Lord Shred, to get the ingredients. I do have some other WAP juice here today as well, which is my triple mushroom elixir. So this will be a hallucinogenic live stream. Cheers. Disgusting. All right. So what we're going to do is measure these bands with a modern metric, Spotify monthly listeners, right? So if we want to find out who the biggest modern metal bands are, we've got to use current metrics. People don't really sell as many CDs and records as they used to. So we're going to be looking at some Spotify metrics. Not so much your personal opinion, although Spotify monthly listeners is a reflection of like a broad spectrum of personal opinion. That's basically what it is. So we're measuring things like a scientist might. All right, let's see. Let's get into this. I do want to make one note here before we start. There is like this effect, I call it the Meshuggah effect, where smaller bands have like a wide influence, right? Like Meshuggah hasn't sold that many records. They don't have that many monthly Spotify listeners, but pretty much everybody in metal knows Meshuggah and is kind of influenced by their sound to a degree. So there are smaller bands that have kind of a big effect on the genre as a whole, and I find that an interesting phenomenon. Meshuggah has influenced just like all modern metal, right? I don't always sell peace, but when I do, I don't know who's buying. Well, that's a risk that Dave Mustaine has to take. What do you mean I don't sell peace? Okay, so the number 5 biggest modern metal band. Can you guess who the 5th biggest modern metal band is? And I'm talking about really all metal bands, but I'm including, recent stuff. So these could be bands, from the 2000s on up to now, and also from 1970 with the inception of Black Sabbath and metal. So when I say modern metal, really I'm talking about old metal, but usually the modern stuff is smaller, so it doesn't enter the conversation. But according to Spotify monthly listeners, I can't even pronounce your name, bro, but Slipknot is correct. That is correct. I don't even know what language that is. Is that Arabic or something? Winger is definitely not it. Three Doors Down, not even close. Stone Sour. Is Three Doors Down considered metal? Man, I don't think so. Chai. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Like chai tea. Love me some chai tea, WAP juice. So Slipknot is the 5th biggest modern metal band. Slipknot is, they've been around for a while now, but they probably, their debut album, I want to say, was like 98, somewhere thereabouts. Could have been a little bit earlier. So they have 10.2 million Spotify monthly listeners, which is a nice chunk. They got a lot going on there. They have sold not that many records in comparison, to bigger bands like Metallica. They've sold 9.3 million records. But again, as we're talking about in the modern day, people just don't sell records as much, right? So we're using this Spotify metric. I mean, 10 million listeners a month equates to, 120 million per year. That's a lot of monthly listeners. That would be like the record equivalent. Oh, yes. Atomy WAP juice. Let's hear a little clip from Slipknot. No more than 5 seconds. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Turn it up a little bit for next time. So that's Slipknot Psychosocial, one of their most popular tracks. I don't know, if you're a Slipknot fan, what's their best song, would you say? Yep, Psychosocial. Yeah, alternative music and metal are different. Like Three Doors Down is definitely not. Yeah, Power Man 5000, I don't think they're anywhere close to as big as Slipknot, if I had to guess. Are they even still a band? Eyeless and Duality, okay. Yep, those are good Slip songs. Spit It Out, yep. Pulse of the Maggots, Custer. Yeah, they have some great song titles. Pulse of the Maggots. I'm going to guess that's exactly 69 beats per minute pulse. So Slipknot is the 5th largest modern metal band. They've got 10.2 million Spotify monthly listeners and 9.3 million records sold. Pretty solid. Next, we're moving to number 4. Yeah, Lamb of God is not on this list. Mastodon, not even close. Mastodon is not a very big band. Gojira is not a very big band either. I thought Gojira was bigger than they are. I love Gojira as well. They're kind of in that same group as the Meshuggah effect, where they're smaller, but they have a wide influence. And I don't really understand that totally, but it's like, they really innovated in the realm of like tone or song structure. Like think of Meshuggah really invented djent, right? They invented like an entire genre because of their tone. So if you can do something like that with your band, you don't necessarily have to appeal to a wider audience, because everyone that does appeal to the wider audience is going to take some of your ideas and kind of spread them for you. So it's kind of brilliant. Yeah, Mastodon's a hard sell because they're so progressive. It's just, what you find is that the more complicated your music is, the less appeal it's going to have. Five Finger Death Punch, Yeah, boy, how big is Death Punch? That's a good point. They should be up there. I didn't see them though. Let's just see. Spotify. Let's see what they are on Spotify. Five Finger has 6.2 million. So yeah, they're not even as big as Slipknot. Slipknot's 3 million bigger. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so Five Finger is not that big of a deal. Pantera, yep, they're a big deal, but not when it comes to Spotify. Pantera sold 20 million records, which is a good amount, but they're not. Yeah, they're not up there on the same level. Okay, we're moving to number 4, which is who do you think? And this isn't just modern metal. I'm talking about all metal, but we're including modern stuff, and it's more like we're measuring with modern metrics, if that makes any sense. So, the 4th biggest metal band on Spotify. Who is it? Who do you think? Take a guess. Would you guess Cardi B? Would you guess Taylor Swift? Ghost. Rammstein. Boy, I did not see Rammstein come into the mix. I'm really interested though. Let me look up Rammstein real quick. Ghost. Ghost is. We're going to talk about Ghost in a bit. Rammstein is only 9.5 million, so they're smaller than Slipknot at 10.2. You would think Rammstein would be bigger. They might have sold a decent amount of records, though. By the way, I'm wearing my Finger the G-string shirt today. You can get your copy below. These shirts get me the best reactions in public. Slayer has, I think, like 2.6 million monthly listeners. They're not even close. So the 4th biggest metal band on Spotify is Black Sabbath. A lot of you guys said that. 11.7 million monthly listeners. That's well over 100 million in a year. And Black Sabbath has also sold a lot of records, 75 million records sold. So Black Sabbath is, of course, a big deal. And Black Sabbath did what, the Meshuggah effect thing, but then they also appealed to a wider audience. So in other words, Black Sabbath really innovated in the realm of like tone and timbre, with Tony Iommi tuning down guitars and doing a lot of unique things with guitar distortion, amplifier distortion, right? The Kinks kind of started that when they pierced their speaker cones to make them vibrate more and get that distorted effect. And then Tony kind of took that to the next level. So Black Sabbath really changed the game. In fact, they invented the game. And you think they'd be bigger than they are, but they're not. Black Sabbath. I like them only slightly better than Kiss. Oh, boo, Ozzy. Take that, Lord Oz. Judas Priest. Yeah, they're another great British band. But yes, timbre is pronounced timbre. That's correct. It doesn't seem like it would be that, does it? Shocker. Black Sabbath are the grandpappies of metal. Yeah, so, but see, this is important because they're still relevant. So that makes them modern, right? So Black Sabbath is playing the modern game. They're on Spotify. They're cleaning up, and they're staying relevant to the new generation. Let's hear a little bit of Black Sabbath. Can you name the song? $69 trillion to whoever can name that song. I Am Iron Man. No, that's incorrect. Paranoid, of course, is the answer. Okay, so I owe a lot of people a lot of money. I'm going to be quite bankrupt by the end of this live stream. But it doesn't matter because these 3 mushrooms, my triple mushroom elixir, will have me sky high. All right. So Black Sabbath is the 4th largest modern metal band. They have stayed relevant and are thus cleaning up with the modern platforms and metrics that we use to assess the size of a brand and a band. And Ozzy is just, a character, right? Like if you do start a band, you got to be a personality. Work on your personality. It's not just about playing incredible licks and playing super fast. Nobody actually cares that much about that unless you have good songs. Tenacious D. That's a great example of personality. Jack Black is like back in black, right? I mean, that guy has 666 level personality. Tenacious D, Kyle Gass, or whatever the other guy's name is. That movie they did, The Pick of Destiny. Oh, I mean, just unreal. So, in fact, Tim Henson of Polyphia, I was watching an interview with him, and he said he was very inspired and influenced by movies like The School of Rock and The Pick of Destiny. So dramatizing music, or Crossroads, if you've seen Crossroads with Steve Vai, it's all about that lore and that trope of selling your soul to the devil at the crossroads at midnight in exchange for unlimited musical power and the ability to manipulate people's emotions, right? Dramatizing things is so important, telling a story. So when you write songs, keep that in mind. Do you play video games? I used to play video games, but I don't really play anymore. I should start, though. I should get like a Discord, right? And then we could all play together. Polyphia, puke, says Brian. Blah, blah. It's interesting. My audience hates Polyphia. I've noticed that over and over again. And that's kind of funny to me. I think Polyphia, I guess I could understand why traditional metalheads wouldn't like Polyphia, because they have a very non-traditional sound, right? They incorporate all of these synthesizer elements and sort of, it's almost like DJ. Metal really isn't even the right word. But it's very intricate and very sophisticated song structures. I love how they sort of take a chord progression and just dance around it in different ways. I think it's brilliant. The 3rd largest metal band. Who do you think it is? Number 5 was Slipknot with 10.2 million Spotify monthly listeners, 9.3 million records sold. Number 4 was Black Sabbath with 11.7 Spotify monthly listeners, 11.7 million, and 75 million sold. AC/DC is not a metal band. Iron Maiden is a good guess, but no, Iron Maiden is wrong. Guns N' Roses, Avenged Sevenfold. Avenged Sevenfold didn't make the cut. They're not that big. Mikey says Korn. We will talk about Korn in a minute, but they are not on the list, which is interesting too. You would think a band like Korn would be a bit more competitive. Papa Roach, Alice in Chains. Does Alice in Chains count as metal? They're kind of on the line. Limp Bizkit, Sepultura. So somebody said a while back, okay, there we go. Simone says System of a Down. SOAD, SOAD, as you often see listed on the internet as a short form for the band. That is the 3rd largest modern metal band. Now, System of a Down is Armenian in their background, and they've been around. When did SOAD start? Does anybody know? I would guess late 90s, maybe actually 2000s. Man, I don't know. Somewhere around there. Can we stop talking about new metal? New metal isn't metal. Oh, Tony. Tony's making some delineations about what metal is. Man, we could do a whole show on that. What is metal? Well, it's got metal right in the name of the genre, new metal. So a lot of people consider that metal. And this is kind of the point of these live streams, is to get out of your own personal opinion and look at the general consensus, right? We're using relevant modern metrics to assess a lot of people's personal opinion, right? Because that's what the success of a band comes down to. How many people's personal opinions and personal sense of taste aligns with their music. Metal Church, definitely not. They didn't make it. So System of a Down, yeah, DJ Khaled, man, by comparison, it'd be interesting. Like, let's look up DJ Khaled. So, DJ. $24 million monthly listeners for DJ Khaled. Now, that's a really interesting metric. Let's keep that in mind for when we climb this list. So, DJ Khaled has 24 million, monthly listeners. System of a Down has 14 million monthly listeners. So DJ smashes System of a Down. He cranks them down by 10 million. He's 10 million bigger. The question would be, how many records has he sold too? That'd be another interesting thing to know, because System of a Down has sold 40 million records. That's a lot of records. Does Khaled have any talent at all, or is he just a super confident in his suckage? Well, it's an interesting point to consider. What makes popular music popular, right? It's not so much about talent as it is about like swag and personality. The average listener IQ, Rob, maybe isn't as high for DJ Khaled listeners, but you have to understand DJ Khaled is much smarter than a lot of metal bands in the sense that he knows marketing and branding and sales and lifestyle brand management. He knows how to be cool. He can pick up a guitar and thumb spank it and not make any sense at all and still kind of seem cool to people, even though he's just heinously awful at fingering the G string, right? He's not a good G string fingerer. But that's just not really what people care about as a whole. I know in our community here, we care about things like talent. But with popular music, it's more about branding, lifestyle, swag, personality, and those are important things. Guys like Dimebag Darrell and Eddie Van Halen, I see as swag guys who had personality and had this presence to them. It wasn't just about their playing. Watch interviews with Dimebag Darrell. Like, he's a very personable, articulate, well-spoken character. MOAR. Yeah, MOAR is about to do a tour right now with MAB, Michael Angelo Badio. Shout out to him. Let's see what MOAR is on Spotify. Not even 1 million monthly listeners for MOAR. 909,000. So MOAR is pretty small fry stuff. Even though they're a fantastic band, right? But they just don't resonate as much with the population at large. Okay, Mab gave me the keys to the Lambo. You have to thank Mab for doing that. He unlocked the Lamborghini for all of us. And so we pay homage to Lord Badio every night with our 666 prayers. So, System of a Down, let's hear a little clip of System of a Down. See if you can name this song by System of a Down. Whoever names this song correctly gets 420 bill. Okay. I'm using live versions here. I'll probably still get demonetized. But that is our clip of System of a Down. And everybody's got it right. Chop suey is correct. Rob says chop suey. Chop up your suey. It's a very interesting band. The sound of System of a Down, like I said, it, you know, the guys are like Armenian. I don't know if they're all Armenian or not, but Darren or whoever the guitar player is, he's got a very sort of interesting take on things. You know, it's almost a bit of exotic / erotic scales. And then the vocal delivery is so different and unique. I mean, they really innovated in the realm of their sound, right? Their sonic presentation isn't like other bands. So that helped them become more popular. But they also have just really tight songwriting capacity. You know, their song structure and compositions are really brilliant. Yeah, is he Iraq? I don't even know. Anyway, they're from the Middle East somewhere. They're somewhere over there. Yeah, Gojira, again, we were talking about Gojira earlier. Gojira isn't that big of a band. I know they seem like they are, but they're nothing like Metallica or Megadeth. They're not even close. And I think the reason for that is because they're too heavy. They play a lot of notes and they're too heavy. Like anytime you stop singing and go to screaming, you're going to like, I mean, just alienate large swaths of the population. So Gojira, you know, maybe could be a bigger band. I'm not saying they should change their sound. I'm just saying that, you know, once you start doing like death metal stuff, you're just not going to be a big band, like just period. Because people can't relate to that. Behemoth, yeah, Behemoth is not going to be anywhere close to being on this list. Creator, definitely not. Obituary, nope. The bands that you guys are mentioning now do not have large commercial appeal. Death, not a chance. Typo Negative, you know, I'm curious about Typo Negative. I'm a huge Typo Negative fan. R.I.P. Peter Steele. Let's just see what they do on Spotify. So Typo Negative on Spotify is, yeah, wow, just 1 million. Man, that's so much smaller than you would think. And wow, that's interesting, you know, because Typo Negative had this really unique sound with Peter Steele's voice being, you know, in the subsonic basement so low, right? Maybe that was part of the reason. And they had kind of more progressive song structures. You know, it's maybe not as commercially viable. Okay, we're moving to number 2. This is going to surprise you. Who is the second biggest modern metal band? And we're talking about all metal bands, but you know, we're using modern metrics to assess who these bands are. Megadeth, no, nope, not Megadeth. Snoop Dogg, good, that's no. Solid guess. Motley Crue, no. Ghost, false. Trivium. Yeah, how big is Trivium? Dream Theater, nope. Ozzy, nope. I mean, we did Black Sabbath, but Ozzy's solo project is a lot smaller. Gojira again. People think Gojira is a big deal, and they're just not. Sabaton. Killswitch Engage. I would think Killswitch would be kind of big. Let's see what Killswitch is on Spotify. Pardon moi. 2 million. That makes sense though, because Killswitch uses, you know, screaming. As soon as you start screaming, people start fleeing, right? You're just not going to have as wide of appeal. Mike, he says Avenged Sevenfold. Avenged Sevenfold is not that big of a band. They would seem like they're more commercially viable. So they have Avenged Sevenfold has 6.7 million. You have to be at least 10 or higher to hit the top 5. So they're not there. Linkin Park, we're going to talk about Linkin Park in a minute. Okay, so the second biggest band, man, no one's really gotten this, I guess. Korn, Judas Priest, no. All That Remains, no. Five Finger Death Punch, nope. We looked those guys up earlier. Godsmack, nope. Rammstein, nope. Rammstein isn't that big. Metallica, okay. Woot. Congratulations to Woot. He gets $69 trillion. Yeah, why? I guess everybody's thinking Metallica's number 1 is why we didn't say it, huh? Surprise, surprise. Metallica has been dethroned. They are no longer the arbiters of the metal universe, which actually blew my mind. When I was doing research for this video, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. R.I.P. Metallica. They're done. This is the end of Metallica. I didn't think it would come this soon. But according to Spotify, if these numbers are correct, Metallica has been usurped in terms of their size. I mean, so 23.8 million monthly listeners. I mean, it's not like they're slacking here. They've got a large piece of the pie. They've got pretty much everybody's ears when it comes to the metal genre. Maybe Dave's behind this, or MGTOW, could be. Dethroned by Khaled. Okay, interesting theories here. It's possible that the DJ had something to do with this. Jethro Tull. Yeah, Jethro's, I don't know, you're in the wrong stream, bro. Jethro Tull is not metal. Cardi B could have dethroned Metallica. She might have slipped Papa some poison and got him off track. I don't know. No, I don't think this has anything to do with Napster. Not a Napster issue, bro. But Metallica is 23.8 million monthly listeners, and the record sold is crazy. They have the highest amount of records sold of anybody on this list, really, 125 million. So, I mean, I guess we could have a nuanced conversation about if number 1 is really number 1. And number 1 totally surprised me. But before we get to number 1, we got to hear some Metallica. Name this Metallica song in 5 seconds. James, thank you for the super chat. Says Death Angel should be number 1, the thrash metal band. Well, I'm fascinated by this argument. Yes, that is correct. For Whom the Bell Tolls. Everyone got that one. Death Angel should be the best. This is the statement, right? So there's a philosophical concept that the Scottish philosopher David Hume came up with called the is-ought distinction. Basically, it says there's a difference between what is real and what we think should be real or what ought to be real. So the difference is, one is our personal opinion about how reality should be reflected, and the other is about what it actually is. So it's an interesting conversation. Death Angel is one of those bands that is kind of extreme, and they're not going to appeal to a lot of people. Raphael says, why am I just looking at streams? Well, that's because we're using modern metrics. Metal bands that have come into being in the past few decades, the record sales industry has collapsed. So nobody buys CDs anymore. So we can't really measure the size of modern metal bands with old metrics, right? So that's why we're using streams. But old metal bands can use streaming. So this is a more fair comparison. Death Angel. Let's look up Death Angel. They're not going to have many, I can tell you that. Yeah, 286,000 monthly listeners. Tiny band. I'm not saying they're bad because they don't have a lot of followers. It's just that the kind of music they play and maybe the extreme nature of what they do just is going to have limited reach. I mean, you probably know this by now, but if you listen to metal music, you understand that you're like a little bit different. You maybe have a few screws loose up here, and maybe you're kind of socially ostracized a bit from society, and maybe you don't have a lot of friends, and we just, that's the way it is. We think a little bit differently as metalheads, right? So, and then there's kind of like everybody else out there, and they're listening, you know, to Cardi B and DJ Khaled and Taylor Swift, etc. Pantera. I love Pantera. They are not on this list. Let's look up Pantera, though, on Spotify. They've sold a lot of albums. They've sold 20 million albums, but, you know, they're just not an active band. They have 4.7 million monthly listeners, which is really good, considering they're not even, you know, a band anymore. But Metallica is still churning out records, still touring voraciously. You're just not going to be able to keep up with that. Okay, so we indeed guessed that song that I played, which was For Whom the Bell Trolls by Metallica. Yeah, Beethoven is not on this list, although it could be said that Beethoven was the original metalhead. I don't know if you guys know the origin story of metal itself. A lot of people start the clock on the genesis of metal with Deep Purple. Some people say it's Black Sabbath. Other people say it's Deep Purple. Now, Deep Purple wrote the song Smoke on the Water, or A Light Haze on the Lake, you might say. A Mist on the River. And the story goes, you know, I kind of dramatized this, but, you know, basically, I mean, you can watch a video of Ritchie Blackmore, the guitarist of Deep Purple, explaining this. But he said he was looking at Beethoven's Fifth Symphony one day, and he's like, wait a minute. What if I just play this in retrograde, or play it backwards, or Bachwards, if you will, because Bach used to use retrograde. So when he played Beethoven's Fifth Symphony backwards, bum, 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 right? We all know that. What happens when you play that backwards, you can actually look at the notes. There is 035 in there. So Ritchie and classical music originated metal, you could say, because Ritchie Blackmore stole Smoke on the Water from Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. If it's Deep Purple, I'm going to open my window and scream as loud as I can. Okay, sure, why not? Rage, are you talking about Rage Against the Machine? Rage Against the Machine, are they a metal band? You know, some people draw the line there. MOAR, yeah, we've got a lot of people talking about MOAR. Have they started touring yet? Has anybody in the chat seen a MOAR show this year? Because I know they're either on tour or about to tour with new guitarist Michelangelo Badio. He's giving him the keys to the Lamborghini. Rage for the Machine. Yeah, Cannibal Corpse. If you think Cannibal Corpse is the top 5 in the top 5 metal bands, you're hilariously mistaken. Wait a minute, who's I gonna look up that you just said? Oh, Cannibal Corpse. Yeah, Cannibal Corpse. good old corpse grinder and a 69-inch neck girth. Can anybody compete with George Corpse Grinder's neck girth in the chat? Been doing your neck exercises? Hammerfall, that's like a power metal band. Yeah, they're not going to be on this list. So Cannibal Corpse, as sort of big as they seem, are, oh, this is interesting. They have 666,000 monthly listeners. How about that? They have the devil's number in their monthly listeners. But you have to have at least 10 million to be on the list. So they're not even in the same universe as the top 5 metal bands. Not even remotely close. Yeah, 666,000, 0.69. That would have been good, huh? George Fisher has the biggest neck on Earth, and this is verified by scientific fact. If you measure George's neck, it's precisely 666.420.69 inches across, which is a significant amount of girth. Now, Miley Cyrus is joining Cannibal Corpse. Yeah, no, that wouldn't happen. Although Miley Cyrus does like metal. She has covered Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. Maybe that doesn't really count as, it's like their least metal song ever. Davey 504 is the winner. I saw he had a new video release today for anybody who likes to slap bass. Bass. Why doesn't Davey start a band, right? It wouldn't be metal for him. He is more like sort of funk and what is Davey? Maybe a little R&B. Davey has a very commercial sound. The number one metal band in the modern day, can you guess who this is? This blew my mind. It surprised me, and I had to instantly consume 69 ounces of WAP juice to regain my sanity. Maiden, yeah, nope. Ghost, a lot of Ghost fans, definitely not Ghost. Polyphia, no. Justin Bieber, solid guess. Disturbed, no. Rick Astley, Rickrolled, Powerwolf, Cannibal Corpse, yeah, right. Gojira. I can tell a lot of you guys are just saying like what your personal favorite band is, thinking that's going to be the biggest. Wolfmother, are they metal? I don't think so. Rammstein. Fate's Warning, Mikey? Seriously? Trivium. That seems like a good guess. Do we look up Trivium size? I mean, Trivium's not that big of a band, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the top 10. But then again, they scream, so you can't scream and be big. Yeah, only 1.5 million for Trivium. They're small fries. So Fear Factory, I love Fear Factory. I'm a huge Fear Factory fan, but again, they scream, right? Let's see how big Fear Factory is. 832,000. Fear Factory is tiny. Slayer, no. Sabotage. What? Sabotage. Stop it. Lamb of God, they scream. Machine Head, Nightwish, Death. Okay, Linkin Park is correct. Wizard Key, whatever your name is, you get 69 bill. Linkin Park is the biggest band in metal in the modern day. Now this blew my mind. Of course, R.I.P. to Chester Bennington. When did he, I want to say he died back in maybe 2020 or 2019. Oh man, he was even earlier. It's 2017. Wow. Okay, so he's been dead for, like 6 years, almost 6 years. Man, it's crazy how time flies, right? Uh, I didn't know this. I had no clue that Linkin Park was this big. And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to me. Because Linkin Park has like these elements that are very modern, almost like some DJ Khaled elements, right? Sampling, electronic stuff going on. And what they talk about is very relatable. It's kind of like personal depression stuff, and I don't feel like adequate or good enough. And I think that's a universal theme that everyone can relate to. And they sort of package all of this in an extreme, they have like a metal sort of sound underneath. And that really helps kind of amplify these themes that they're talking about. But there's no like real intense screaming. And they have like the two different vocalists, the one guy that kind of like raps. So it's like very accessible. Let's listen to a little bit of Linkin Park. Name this song by Linkin Park. Those are chilling lyrics. I tried so hard. I got so far and tried so hard, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Wow. And that's so true, isn't it? It's like in life, you can, chase your dreams and do the best that you can, to realize your potential. But then ultimately, death is the great equalizer. We're all zeroed out by thermodynamics, and we all eventually decay and expire. And then it's over, right? So, yeah, foreshadowing, exactly. Just chilling lyrics. So, Linkin Park has 26 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Metallica had 23.8. Linkin Park usurped Metallica and put an end to their reign with 26 million monthly listeners. Linkin Park is a massive, massive band. I don't know. I guess I've just been kind of sleeping on this and not seeing what's right in front of my eyes. Arthur Schopenhauer is the best metalhead. Yeah, the philosopher. Now, what do you guys think about Linkin Park? Who's a Linkin Park fan in the chat? Raise your hand. Yeah, see, Jack says it's not metal. This is the thing is you're going to get like metal purists saying this isn't authentic. And I can resonate with that synopsis to a degree. Although you have to admit that they do have metal elements for sure, right? The heavily distorted guitars is like a primary engine of their sound. Hybrid Theory was great. Yeah, was that their first record? I remember when it came out. One of my cousins got the album, and I remember it just kind of taking everybody by storm. They really changed the game because it was, for all the reasons I previously mentioned, they just incorporated all of these old and new sounds and put them all together, and it was highly effective, to be honest. Yeah, R.I.P. Chester Bennington. Can't believe that was 2017 when he died. Crazy. I was thinking that was 2 or 3 years ago, max. 26 million for Linkin Park monthly listeners. And the other thing, this is an even more impressive metric. So they've sold 100 million albums. That's just like, I'm like, what? Because you have to understand, Linkin Park, when did they come out? The early 2000s or so? This is like, I mean, the record industry was in full decline. Well, maybe not actually. Maybe they hit the tail end of the peak of the record industry. And then as the mid 2000s late 2000s came about, the record industry was just doing this, right? So even despite that, they still racked up 100 million albums, which Metallica has 125. So they had a much shorter career span than Metallica and sold, you know, a good chunk of what Metallica sold. I mean, it's incredible. Uh, so there you have it. I mean, Slipknot number 5, 10.2 million. Black Sabbath number 4, 11.7 million. System of a Down number 3 with 14 million. Metallica number 2, dethroned, the end of Metallica, 23.8, and then Park number 1 with 26. And you know, I mean, people mention Ghost. They have 8.9 million Spotify monthly listeners. Korn was also mentioned in the chat. They have 8.4. Pantera 4.8. Megadeth 4.6. So indeed, dethroned. They've been dethroned, my brother. I mean, this blew my mind. The end of Metallica. Where do we go from here? There is this effect that we were talking about, right? Where it's like just because a band isn't big doesn't mean they're not influential. Meshuggah influenced a gazillion bands with their djent sound. Think about like Van Halen. Van Halen isn't the biggest band in the world. They're not even close to as big as Metallica. But Van Halen and Eddie Van Halen made everybody start tapping their G string, right? Got the flipper, got the paws up on the hardwood and started playing around. And if you can do something like that in your band, you don't necessarily have to, you know, have this super wide commercial appeal to influence other band style and sound. The WAP tap, I like that. Eddie brought the WAP tap. So when you're making your own music, who has a band or who wants to start a band or who, you know, wants to make music? Say band in the chat. Say band if you're interested in making your own music. Be thinking about these elements, right? Traitor to metal, says Jack, is me. Yes, that's what I am. And you know what? I take that as a compliment because I'm trying to redefine the genre and embrace evolution and be able to speak our message of metal to a wider audience. So a lot of people have bands here. Mikey was in 3 bands. Damn, the triple threat, trifecta. No, the tap caused the WAP. Well, chicken or the egg kind of scenario, I guess. So what kind of music do you want to make? Like put the genre, like specifically for everybody who said they have a band, what kind of genre is your band? The 3-band guy, Samurais and 666 bands. Thrash, so a cool dude is in a thrash band like Metallica or Slayer or Anthrax or Death Angel. Toilet core, solid. Melodic thrash. I like the idea of melodic thrash. Band shed. Stone sludge with elements of thrash. Oh, stoner sludge. Stoner sludge. Riff band. Oh, I like that idea. Tokyo Blade. Deicide. Yeah, no, that's already a band. So think about, you know, what your sound is going to be, right? And how to, I mean, if you're into extreme music, that's fine. Just a lot of metalheads I'm finding are just not that socially aware, right? We don't even know that we're not that good with our social skills. And I always point to guys like Dimebag Darrell because he's the archetype you want to emulate. He had very high social intelligence. He was charismatic, well-spoken, articulate, but then he was also this great musician and performer. And that's what you want to shoot for. Like, don't become one of these people who is super cringe, awkward, and isolates yourself from society and wears that as like a badge of honor. You know, nobody cares that you're horrible with people. So try to be like good with people, and then like your life just turns out better. And of course, I'm talking to myself here too. We all struggle with this as metalheads. Dimebag is just like every southeastern bro dog. I don't get that. So yeah, the honorable mentions. I was kind of surprised Korn didn't make it, but that is it, my people. Grab yourself Finger the G-String shirt. You can sign up for my free guitar newsletter below to learn more secrets about how to write good music and not bad. I mean, that should be obvious, but you know, just like always start with simplicity when you're writing. Like, don't try to alienate people, you know, as much as you can by playing with your wood, 666 notes per second, right? That's a big turnoff. You can play flashy, like, but again, I bring up Dimebag Darrell or Eddie Van Halen. Do it like they did in the context of a strong composition. Randy Rhoads is a great example. Man, like Randy Rhoads nailed it. Like, he had this very sophisticated compositional intelligence, but he was also very appealing to the masses. And I think Ozzy Osbourne really helped kind of give him healthy parameters. I think of like Marty Friedman. Like, if you listen to Marty Friedman's solo material, it's kind of hard to get into. But if you listen to Megadeth, it's like, wow, this is incredible, because he had some healthy guidelines. Some people are too brilliant for their own good. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. Keep shredding. Get your own band going. And be praying for Metallica to make a comeback, because they have been dethroned. Is this the end of Metallica? Has Linkin Park destroyed them forever? I don't think so, because Metallica's still active and they're still rolling. R.I.P. Papa Head. Hopefully not. Hopefully Papa has another 20 years left. I would love it if Papa had another 20 years left, but we'll see. It's going to be a dark day when he leaves this world. Later, my friends. We'll see you soon.